Story 1. First, a little backstory. Back in 2008, I received a convertible PT Cruiser for my birthday. It may sound a bit odd, but it was cheap, super dependable, in great condition, and it was a convertible. I definitely enjoyed that car during the summer. My family did too, which is where this story begins. My parents loved to take cruises in the car. They would go to all sorts of places, take the dog, and make a nice morning or afternoon out of it. One day back in 2010, they were driving on the interstate with my sister and dog in tow. They ended up behind a semi-truck with a flatbed trailer carrying large stacks of parts strapped down. Imagine whitish, shiny metal beams, but smaller. Well, secured would not be a good term to describe this load, because those parts fell off the trailer and right into the path of my parents. They described the scene as chaos. My dad, the driver, was swerving around the road to avoid falling pieces potentially going through the windshield. My sister was squeezing the dog for dear life, and it was complete chaos. They finally managed to stop on the side of the highway. The family was terrified, the dog was freaked out, and the car was in terrible condition from being hit by and driving over metal beams. The worst part, the driver kept going. He didn't stop or pull over and basically left the scene of an accident with the load still not secure. Here's where the pro-revenge comes in, and I mean pro-revenge. You see, my mom is a buyer. A buyer is responsible for coordinating prices and purchases of materials for manufacturing and construction companies. A cool fact about my mom, she's very good at this and has a lot of experience when it comes to part identification. And wouldn't you know it? There were parts all over the highway, so she, my dad, and my sister all went around collecting the metal pieces that had fallen off the trailer. She then proceeded to go home and use her work experience to track down exactly where these parts came from. Keep in mind that the only thing she had to go off of was a random string of numbers on each part she retrieved. Not exactly easy for the average person, and it took her about a week to finally get to the end result of the research. Using only that information, as well as all the knowledge and experience she had gained over the years from being a buyer, she not only identified the company that produced the parts, but she could also identify where they were produced, the driver of the semi-truck, and the destination of the parts. She contacted the manufacturer and threatened to press charges for what had happened. Since my mom had all the evidence, the parts were definitely for commercial use only and shouldn't be in the hands of some mom 150 miles away from the parts destination, as well as the vehicle damage to prove what happened. The manufacturer was forced to pay out to fully repair the car $5,000 in total. Needless to say, the semi-truck driver was also fired for negligence. Edit. Thanks for all the awesome mom feedback. She's an amazing person who deserves lots of love.
Yes, the dog was fine and is still a happy good boy to this day.
Story 2. My grandparents are kind of wealthy. They don't look like it, but they are. They live in a nice farmhouse and lead a fairly peaceful and quiet life. Their youngest son, my Uncle Ted, in his 30s at the time, was dating a woman that we will call Karen for the sake of this story. No one in our family liked Karen. She was a condescending, entitled woman who didn't leave any of us any room for doubt that she was dating our uncle just for his parents' wealth. She was a certified gold digger, and he was just an idiot for not seeing it, even though most of the people in our family told him so directly and indirectly. At one of our family gatherings, she didn't mind making a terrible comment about how after my grandparents die, my uncle will get everything since he's their favorite. She even said she couldn't wait to put her hands on my grandmother's jewelry box that my uncle told her about. And then, when the room went quiet after what she said, she tried playing it off as a joke and said, "Oops, did I say that out loud? My bad? Oh, come on, everybody, I was just kidding." Yeah, right? The whole atmosphere got extremely awkward after that, and people just started leaving early since they didn't really want to be around her anymore. After that day, my grandparents called two of their three sons and one daughter and asked them to visit to discuss an important matter, excluding Uncle Ted from that meeting. Once all of them got there and sat down, My grandfather started telling them that he gathered them to take action regarding the woman their brother was dating. He started with, "No one has the right to interfere in someone else's private life. No one has the right to break up a relationship between two people as long as they're not harming anyone else, even if everyone around them doesn't like what they're seeing." Everyone quietly nodded and kept listening as my grandpa continued. "However, I have every right to protect my children if I ever feel they're harming themselves one way or another." Then Grandpa proceeded to tell them his plan to put some of the people lurking around his family to the test. A couple of weeks after that one meeting, he called his sons and daughter and told them to come to his farmhouse with their families, as he had a big announcement to make. And this time, everyone showed up, including Uncle Ted and his entitled girlfriend. Grandpa started with how he hadn't been feeling well lately and how he felt that his day was nearing. It got really serious right off the bat. Everyone in the room got tense. Well, except for one person. One stranger who had been waiting for that day ever since she set foot in this house. Anyways, Grandpa continued with his announcement. "Due to my health issues, I consulted with my lovely wife and my lawyer, and I decided to write down my will and divide my inheritance between all of you." Karen's eyes lit up as any talk about her future fortune brought her nothing but joy, even if it was at the cost of our beloved grandparents dying. Then Grandpa said, "But what I want to do a bit differently is that I want to be the one to announce how I'm going to divide my wealth. I don't want you to wait until after my demise to know what you're going to get. If you're getting something from me, you're going to know it right now." Then his lawyer handed him his will, and he proceeded to read what was written in it. After what seemed to be an eternity, but didn't actually pass 10 minutes, my grandpa folded his will and ended with, "This is how I decided to divide my wealth while I'm of perfect sound mind." It was quiet after that for a long moment. I mean, Grandpa, you left a huge elephant in the room. Everyone got something of value from his inheritance. Everyone except for Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted looked confused and didn't really know what to say. He was a really good guy, and he loved his parents, and they loved him too. But he was just a little bit too naive for his own good. While my uncle stayed silent without saying a single word back to his father, his Karen of a girlfriend did not. She got super red in the face and exploded. "Are you kidding me, old man? What the heck does that mean? Why won't you give anything to me? I mean to us." Grandpa told her, "It's not up to you to tell me what to do with my own money. That's what I see fit, and that's what's going to happen. Period." She kept screaming and threatening everyone around her until she was kicked out by my other uncle from the house. Uncle Ted just followed her outside, tucked her into his car, and they drove off. Poor Uncle Ted. He didn't deserve what Grandpa did to him. But more so, he didn't deserve to be with someone like that horrible woman. And that's how that meeting concluded. Suspiciously, no one talked about what happened. No adults asked my grandpa about the reason why he excluded Uncle Ted from getting a share of his inheritance. Everything just seemed too quiet, and life returned to normal the very next day. Well, except for Uncle Ted. All it took was a few days after this one explosive meeting for his gold digger girlfriend to dump him since she wouldn't be able to get her hands on his parents' money anymore. Her staying with him and acting like she loved him made no sense after all that, so she broke up with him. All of us tried to feel bad for the guy after the breakup, but we couldn't help but feel extremely happy for him that he got rid of that gold digger. We were really ecstatic that we wouldn't see this woman again during family gatherings. At the next family gathering, Grandpa had us sit down again, and he just started mind-blowing everyone again. He told us how the whole thing about his inheritance was something he came up with the help of my grandma, to figure out if Karen was going to stand by his son when he had nothing, or if she would bail on him once his parents' money was out of the equation. Now that this was a question we all had a clear answer for, he was going to redivide his inheritance to include his beloved son Ted and exclude no one from it. He never actually had any health issues to start with. He was just getting deep into the play he was cooking and wanted to nail it. "Oh, come on, Grandpa. Of course, Uncle Ted had mixed emotions hearing this, but in the end, he came along, and he and Grandpa shared a long hug that got some of us to shed a tear or two. And there you have it, a happy ending to a fairly long story, right? Nope, there is more. It gets better. It seems that Karen couldn't just take the loss and be on her way. She couldn't swallow that pill. She couldn't let all those months she dated my uncle go to waste. She wanted something out of it. One night, my grandparents woke up to their dogs barking like nothing else. Right in the middle of the night, Grandpa grabbed his pistol and went out to see what was causing the ruckus. And there she was, Karen, trying to fend off the beasts attacking her. Once she saw my grandpa, she screamed at him to help her and order the dogs to get away from her. It took my grandpa a moment to realize who she was, and when he did, he told the dogs off. They stopped going after her and sat down near their owner. He then asked her, "What are you doing here?" At first, she tried to deny her intentions by making up some lame excuse about how she missed them and came to visit at 3 in the morning. But after my grandpa threatened to call the police, she confessed that she came to grab what she could from that jewelry box she had heard so much about. She said she earned what was in it and that he should compensate her for all the time she spent with his pathetic son. Right when she was about to finish that sentence, she heard a shotgun cocking from behind the man standing in front of her. It was Grandma, and she was angry. One quick thing to know about Grandma: she's an angel. Truly one of the most loving people I've ever known. But you surely don't want to see her angry, because may God have mercy on your poor soul if you got her upset. She told her, "You tricked my son all this time, stole all his money, lost him all his friends, and broke his heart. Now you dare come to my doorstep to steal some more? Oh, I don't think so." I later learned from Grandpa that he was on the verge of letting her go. But that was before Grandma showed up. You just don't argue with her when she's in that state. She then pointed her shotgun at Karen, ordered her to lay on her stomach, put her face in the mud, and stood over her while asking Grandpa to tie her hands behind her back with the roughest rope he could find until the police arrived. "They will be here in a few minutes. I called them already," she told Grandpa. 10 minutes later, the police arrived, put Karen in handcuffs, and took her away. All the while she wailed and shrieked like she lost her mind. That was the last time we saw her. I remember hearing about her getting some years in prison for breaking and entering, but I didn't know specifically how many years she got. Let me just say that I have one of the most fearless grandparents anyone has ever had. Story 3. I used to work at a bar as the only female security officer. They had some very bad things happen when a man followed a woman to the bathroom, so they needed a woman to keep an eye on what happened there. This bar got into legal trouble all the time. The bathroom incident, the fire marshal closing them on busy weekend nights for being way over capacity, and the liquor board pulling their license once already for overserving and serving minors with obviously fake IDs. I was one of the new security hires to help resolve all this. It was so bad that we had to be trained by a government agent from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and get a card to prove we knew how to spot and stop overserves and spot fake IDs. I think the real reason they hired us was to have scapegoats ready for the next time they did this. So I worked there for a while, doing my best. The owner's wife was the worst. She was always drunk, always had her friends in the bar, and bent the rules for them. She thought she was Lady Jesus, and we should all be kissing her feet because she was the owner's wife. I mostly stayed out of her way and had no issues, but many coworkers complained about her. One night, some guy got sick on the way to the bathroom. I cut him off, and he ended up getting escorted out by his less drunk friends. I noticed a man sitting at the bar watching this. He had creased slacks, a jacket indoors on a summer night, and no drink in his hand at a busy meat market dance club. I started watching him and noticed the badge under his jacket. Aha! He was here to watch for overserving. A little later, a woman came to the bathroom, drunk enough to need to hold on to the walls for dear life. I cut her off. She screamed at me, then went into the bathroom and tried to wash off the giant black Sharpie X's from the back of both hands. I warned her that she would be kicked out of the club if she continued. She screamed again and staggered out of the bathroom. About 5 minutes later, the owner's wife was in my face, screaming. The woman I had cut off was one of her friends, attending a bachelorette party in the VIP section, and I was supposed to somehow magically know she was VIP. I was also apparently supposed to break the law for her because she was VIP. So, she and I started a screaming match, where I informed her that her husband had hired me to make sure the law was followed. I also started to inform her about the police officer at the bar, but she screamed in my face to shut your mouth and get out of my bar. She fired me on the spot. I didn't bother waiting to see if her husband agreed. It was known she wore the pants. I complied. I shut my mouth and got out of her bar. I walked past the officer, still sitting at the end of the bar near the bathrooms where the screaming match had taken place. I made eye contact with him, gave a slight nod, to which he responded by looking at the boss's wife, rolling his eyes, and smiling at me as I left. They got shut down that night for overserving the bachelorette party. This time, they went out of business because of too many strikes against them.